One of the questions I want to talk about that I get a lot at real estate events I speak at, when sort of people come up, shake your hand, and spend that 10 seconds asking a question, is how do you get started? What happens? I've done all the research, I've done all these things, I've got my financing lined up, but I just can't pull the trigger. There's so much to that question. It's hard to answer, but I'm going to take a shot without really, knowing the person, right? It's hard to generalize. But this is what I would do and why I was comfortable executing, right? So first off, I'm going to assume you've done your homework, right? By homework, I mean you've looked at lots of properties and you have one in mind, and you could, and you think it's a good deal. So the first thing I would do is I would go find 2 or 3 friends that you know and trust, and tell them why you think this property is a good deal, right? Make sure they agree with you. Make sure they're not missing anything. Let them ask a couple of questions. I have found when you tell somebody why you think something's a good deal, one of 2 things are going to happen. First, and hopefully most likely, you're going to get more confident, right? You're going to get more confident in the deal the more you talk about it. At least that's what happened to me. The other thing is you may uncover a hole. You may uncover something you've missed, which again is not a bad thing. That would either make the deal not a good one, or perhaps even make it a better deal. You never know what could be found. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is I would realize that in real estate purchases, you actually have several ways to get out of a contract, right? So typically, at least in California, and I assume everywhere, you have out clauses in the standard purchase agreement. So for example, I think it's 17 days, it might be 12, whatever it is. Let's just call it 2 weeks. You have an inspection period, right? Where you can lock up a property, it comes out of the MLS, it goes pending, and you could have people come by and check it out, right? You can have inspections. You could walk the property. You could pay someone to, a couple $100s to give you a full rundown of the property. If you were starting out, go do that. The other thing that's going to happen is a lot of people feel like they're not getting a good deal, right? So I have a couple of things there. First and foremost, because you're likely getting a bank loan, you're going to have an appraisal, and the appraisal is going to come back and tell you, an independent third-party opinion on the property, which is a good thing. The other thing is, here's the reality, right? If you buy a property and you spend $5,000 too much, and by the way, who's saying it's $5,000 too much? But let's just say it's $5,000. Let's say it's $10,000 too much. If you're following on my model and what I'm talking about, you're going to be holding this asset for 30 years, and that extra $5,000 or $10,000 is going to mean nothing in the scheme of things. Right, your payment probably went up like $12, but now you have an asset that's, inflation protected, it's conservatively financed, somebody is paying it off for you, and, you're part of doing what the rich do, and that's buying assets that produce cash flow. So these are things that I have seen people get stuck on. So do me a favor, if you've watched this video this far and you're stuck for some reason, leave me a comment below on something maybe I've missed and why you think you're stuck. And either I'll do another real talk video where I walk the dog, or I'll add it to the subscriber questions. I'd love to hear why you're stuck, because I think, at least in my experience, once you do your first deal, which is by far the hardest, it gets a lot easier to do the second, the third, the fourth. We just get more confident, we get more experience, we find out it's not as hard as we thought, and we find out that cash flow really does happen. So do me a favor, if you're still stuck and I didn't really hit on it, leave a comment, because I'd love to understand where you're at and if I could help in any way. Have a great day.